Will do, Milosh, as we go back into labs and we at least break our chain of clubhouses, but will we change the pace? Now, I talked about it once or twice, Demo, throughout this day, of how the big picture, the grand scheme is shaping up. If NIP win this 3-0, they will jump up to second place. Currently, they'll leapfrog both Black Dragons and FaZe Clan. But it means the divide at that point between 5th place and between 4th place would be, I think, 6 points. 5 or 6 points, which is 2 whole play days, which is mega in the grand scheme of things. It would be 5.
Oh, it's, yeah.
Attackers have located a bomb.
This is the game. Obviously, we can mention about Loud, and it's just the organization, isn't it? Come back to that. Playing for the big organization, their first time in Siege as well. Don't forget, they've just joined it this year. They want to hit the ground running like any organization would.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, so far they haven't been able to. And at the same time, it's nothing that we can ever truly comment on. But when you can look at the statistics and you see that the player that they let go is having such a good time on a different roster, you do wonder, really, you know, if they're still trying to piece a game plan together that they maybe didn't operate on before, if they're trying to rebuild into a new manner that they're still learning the cut and the ebb and the flow of. Either way, we'll be playing without the Kaid and Mirror to restrict some of these plays, so this site is going to feel slightly easier to start breaking into here. Obviously, you'll often have a Mirror putting pressure out of IT like this, and the other looking in towards the connector and jungle. But here, Maverick able to start steadying away, just puts a bit of phantom pressure hole in and is going to let the Buck set up, get the wall open, and give them this route and attention across the top.
In terms of the bans that we have, we just have a look at how the Lost and Loud game went yesterday. Loud, well, whenever they kind of looked at their bans on the attacking side, obviously banding defenders out, it's the exact same. You know, Cade and Mira, they were operators that they wanted to get rid of. Mostly because, again, Cade is going to help them get those walls open, which is always one of the main things that we look towards labs, is how well teams can open up those walls and how quickly and how efficiently they can do so. And then Mira, just as a general operator, you know, good on every bomb site that this map has to offer. So yeah, we're moving it off the board, but it still leaves operators such as your Clash, such as your Azami open, which, you know, pretty good over towards the rafters. As you can see, that's exactly where the Azami is at the moment.
Come at me.
The Clash can offer some support, but the pressure starts to come round on towards those rafter players. They peel themselves further and further back into the site. They're not going to entirely contest this, but they've wasted pockets of utility and pretty much, well, a minute of that sort of change over time. Now, Loud, can they get lucky? They pull the trigger a little bit early, but the Clash is just going to reveal it. It's some damage done towards the smoke of Cons, who's pulled themselves away. That might have been either from the vertical or through the drone hole, but they haven't been able to get themselves confidently in yet or anywhere, and they haven't been given a body, they haven't been given a fight. The longer this time ticks on, the better it's going to work and operate for those defenders. They know the pressure is underneath them. I love that they're just entirely avoiding that confrontation down there.
Yeah, I think that's really good patience, though, from NIP. Just don't give them any picks. You know, whenever there's Bucks kicking about downstairs, just don't challenge them. Let them sit down there, stay towards the, you know, the hard surface areas that they cannot get you in. All of this pressure is going to come in through Fish. Can NIP hold on with that smoke?
That's it, 15 seconds, all the pressure on Fish. They're behind the monitors and they don't really know which way to look, but they can see the bullets hitting the wall behind them. But as long as they survive, they can cause some danger. Pino gets one SDK, gets Fantasy the flank, drew the attention away, but the timer demo, doesn't matter if you're in a 3 versus 3, if you can't get in and hold F, then you're just gonna have that result. NIP held down, just did not give them anything from any of the probes that Loud had sent forward.
Yeah, Loud were really hoping to get a pick, weren't they, with the skeleton key? You know, once you open up all those different walls and you start making the sites pretty impossible to play in, and you can only sit in a few select corners, then you'd hope that the Buck can come in and root them out, get some kills, but NIP just gave them nothing. Nothing at all. And it almost got to the point where it was like 30 seconds and the Loud players were looking at each other thinking, He hasn't gotten any kills. What do we do now? You know, they were hoping to find a pick, and then that would open up the bomb site for them. But yeah, NIP playing really, really well. The smoke on Fish was able to delay a lot of time. And then yeah, obviously the flank came in at the very last minute. Just way too slow for Loud. They were really relying on players getting these picks, but if they don't come, you need to have a plan B. And I think this was another thing I mentioned yesterday is Loud are a team where if plan A doesn't work, plan B doesn't exist. That's the issue that they have.
Yep.
5 seconds left before
Yep,
insertion.
entirely true. And it sort of brings up the comments that I was making at the start of this. Is Loud's struggles, based on how well the players were performing before, because they're trying to set themselves up with a new system of approach? You have to go back and sort of compare some of their operator lineups, the approaches, and also there's been meta changes as well, which are always going to change how well a team can operate, but it's not the biggest sort of difference between when they were finding success and not. Either way, Loud, they're not quite able to get themselves off to that strong start, and now they'll go down towards that basement. Again, the Kaid being gone will give them a little bit of a boon to work towards. The Deimos being off the board will slow some of the track, their play across any of those loose thread players, but it doesn't look like, on a cursory glance around the map, that there really is any on the top floor. A little bit just above the hatch, there it is, Fantasy. But instantly under the first bout of pressure, pulls their way away and takes the fight, Daffo! You cannot just trust that they are not there.
Oh dear, Loud. Another bad start for them. And once again, this is where I worry. If they don't get that opening pick and the plan A doesn't go off to a hitch, what can they really do? And another thing as well that this team's always struggled with is trading back kills. Yes, you never see them. Really, one person dies and an immediate trade comes in 2 seconds later. That doesn't happen with this side. And again, they're showing it right now. It's a 2v4, half the round still to go. You've got a Blackbeard and a Dokkaebi left, attacking on the basement. Like, you know, what are they gonna do? You know, this was the risk of going back to a map which he didn't look all too hot on yesterday. And I'll be honest with you, I would say that NIP is a bit of a step up compared to Loss.
Well, there's one, there's two. Stepped up, stepped off, and stepped on. In that order. It's just solid hold from NIP, and it's a team that's synonymous with that, right? I know we sort of talked a little bit about it yesterday, where we said they're a team that often likes to set up and push and set up and push. And here, the way their defenses are being tested is it's still so by the book. They're not doing anything. Okay.
I don't know if they are.
Tested in some regards, but not out of the threat. You'd look at the data on the graph and you'd be like, all of this is in line with what we thought would happen. It's not a surprise. In the first round, they pulled back, they manipulated the space. As it got smaller, they were still always safe. And that is one of those things that takes a lot of practice of knowing, right, where they are going to be able to and where your hold still has its feet. And that round, I mean, stepping up to the window, okay, it's not the most common thing. And fool me once, Daffo. Shame on you. Fool me twice. We'll see if that happens. But 2 false starts, 2 rounds into NIP's favor. If they complete this perfect rotation, it could be another quick game for us today, Demo.
Yeah. Could be. We do move into our third bomb site choice, though. So top floor and the bottom floor both going to be locked off. Instead, now we move in towards storage. And again, the main issues that we generally see that the defense struggled with in this bomb site is just the fact that you can jump in the window and have a blind spot that you can plan in. That's always the thing that the defenders have to go up against. So hopefully for NIP, they would have seen the way that Loud want to play. And again, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Perez had a pretty big pop-off round as well down here. I mentioned on the kind of pre-desk as well, Flute. You can't just rely on one guy doing all the work for you again. You can't.
No. I mean, it's not ever been the mark of a great team, right? It can be the mark of a great player to be a standout player, but a standout player isn't doing it because they have to. They're doing it because they are allowed to by a decent network and framework of players around, underneath, and supporting them. And yeah, it's exactly the same point where it's You cannot have all that sort of reliance. Here, Fantasy's taken a shoulder of damage. A couple of bullets shaken towards him, but not entirely removed off the boards. They'll be able to grow into it. They've got themselves, obviously, the potential control of the Rara, get some of this rotation locked off, give themselves a bit more awareness of it. And the rotates and the loose players have been a bit of a threat before, but as that all gets reinforced, they'll be able to step their way in. And two Selmas utilised to sort of force the player into an uncomfortable situation. Obviously, Wizard still has a bit to play with here. The Banshee will give them some awareness. The Bees come over the top. They have a pillar player too. You know, they're holding onto the vertical as much as they can, but we sort of remember where the site is, where the plant is. They have to not lose their lives here as they do step back a little bit. There's one caught. Live missed the first one, catches the second one. The C4 doesn't get anything. That's Fenrir gone.
Yeah, good pick. Gets them into where they want to be, in towards this IT breach, and now they can start opening up the floor above that storage, because of course that is where teams are going to want to plant, is by jumping in towards that window. However, this man close to the window, has he been checked? No, he hasn't been cons. A quick snatch and grab of a kill onto Daffo, and somebody has to react to this. You cannot allow him play in this position. Is there another one going to challenge him? Yes, they will be. Need some pressure from above, but he's just tiptoeing around. Finally gets eliminated by Alive, but a lot of damage being done there on the sides of cons.
And you look at the timer now as well, Demo. Bassetto's got a goo mine they've got to take out. It just slows everything down, and as we swing our way back up, Fantasy has an important moment. Do they know he's here? Well, the door will give them a second, but they stop. Oh, the planter goes through. It's a 2 versus 2. And now they're concerned about a player underneath them. The support is going to come round. They've realized they've got to focus this. They've got the vertical. They've got this long watch. They're going to try and drive on the single fight, and they lose it. Perez gets one and up through the bars. The Fantasy, so low health, gets it. Don't have a Kiba. Gonna play with the first ping. The Buck pulls back. STK, experienced enough to know how to play this. Can just hit it with the skeleton key. Fantasy is a shot. And the Buck gets the end of it. But a 1 versus 1 showdown on the tertiary site. There is still work to be done.
Yeah, again, for Loud, you could see the idea. You know, it was always going to be take control of IT and then just simply jump in and go for the plant. And they were successful with that. But probably you needed some better flank protection. You know, you had the Aurora upstairs who was attempting just to block off the doors. Aurora, I don't know why they were running out of the breach. So I don't get. Surely you just stay above at that stage and hold down the flank, you know. But little things there from Loud. But thankfully, STK clutching up big. If you lose that, that's a kicker and a half, isn't it? Because you should have won that round. If you lost that 1v1 with a Buck playing below, big questions being asked. But still, able to get it over the line. They win that round. But I don't think this game will be decided if Loud can beat the third bomb site choice. Loud need to beat the top 4 and the bottom 4. That's what they need to win.
I mean, if you lose that site, it's an instant timeout, right? There's no two ways about it. In that manner as well, the sort of push on. I like that they had the Rara cover there on towards the top door. They still lost the engagement immediately after. They would just sort of turn tail and try to break out of the sort of IT side, but I mean, no one's asked for perfection. 2-1 here. Now, Loud, as you said at the time, Plan A failed. They tried to move on to a Plan B that they were piecing together as they went, and they just didn't really have it. I'm wondering if they'll instead start with a slightly different approach, maybe try and put some of the pressure elsewhere. They had free reign underneath for a long time. It didn't really net them anything. They still do have the Buck of Live, but hopefully they go a bit swifter, a bit quicker onto it, or they full send and try and hunt down a potential loose player.
It's Loud going through the general business of opening up those walls using the Maverick, and I'm sure the Buck or the Flores will come over and finish it off. Live will do just that. So again, for Loud, they're just going to try and open up as many options as they can. Last time it was just a time management thing, Fluke. It was just that they weren't quick enough, and NIP gave them no picks at all, which just didn't help. You know, going into a 5v5 with about 20 seconds left, it's really difficult then to get it over the line for Loud, because you just have to play off just sheer gun skill alone. which can be quite difficult if you don't have the information which they didn't have on the defenders. Brava, doing good work at just being able to move over and get plenty of utility. 2 Banshees will be hacked, and again for NIP, just sitting tight in the bomb site, not wanting to give any of those picks away. But I will say, though, is that Loud this time, I like the addition of the Brava. It's given them more options now. Being able to pick off gadgetry such as the Melusi, it will give them opportunities to creep up and try and find an easy pick onto an unsuspecting NIP player.
Now, Fantasy is tucked in, waiting on towards the top of Garage. I suppose the top of storage there. They're hoping that maybe they can try and keep this Bastion position that became a bit of a drive before, a bit more aggressively. But as I said before, with the pressure that comes from this verticality... Oh, they almost netted an engagement. But then they get dropped by just Pino deciding that he wants to finish the fight. The C4... out over. They sort of expected it. They baited it with the flash, which is wise. It's a much better trade on utility, but time is that cost. Now, without the player underneath, that sort of big part of both plans is driven away. The flash onto the clash, they'll just sort of hold the electricity. Fantasy steps out and steps on. 2 more players once again. Pino finding another. It's a 3 versus 1. Clash is still up as well. And it was just an execution on the door of Electric.
So Loud attempting to try and hit NIP from all different angles. You know, you had IT, you had Garage being pressured, obviously over towards Electrical and Connector. Just trying to, you know, keep NIP on their toes. But whenever NIP have that walking shield, that clash, just running around the bomb site, being able to call out information for his team, pretty easy then for the defenders to swing off the information and pick up those kills. But I would say I think that round does come down to just who are the better team of gunners at that stage, and I think NIP, they showed it. You know, Fantasy having a great round there, stepping out of the breach over towards Garage, picking up 2 kills. You know, that's just raw talent in many ways. But I think Loud, they are desperate for that first kill, aren't they? And that time they were, again, relying on that buck below. This time, NIP, they had already opened up a majority of the floor themselves so they could play into that Buck and try and catch him by surprise. That's exactly what happened. Buck was not expecting all of that floor already to be opened, and he was going to get killed from that. So, yeah, NIP adapting to Loud playstyle from that first round, and obviously for Loud, again, falling into that same issue where they're relying on one player to get a kill to open up the bomb site, but if they don't get that, nothing's going to be built off that.
3-1 NIP now, and they've started to put this one as a bit more of a divide. Obviously, they were pretty decent on this hold as well last time they were here, so this could be another sort of touch and go moment. Getting that early kill, looser on the map itself, pulling out on the roam game, and then just stepping back in. It's something that they can build in. Now, though, with Loud needing to try and just find an encircle. On a first looser fight, they're cutting off the rotate here. The attention paid on towards the kitchen. Legion hates, gets himself a little bit closer towards an escape route down by a vending. You can see, obviously, that Visit on one shoulder. They have the player above. They've kept themselves, NIP here, in a very decent network of connection between each of the players, and it's giving Loud food for thought on where they want to approach first.
NIP are going to be rooted out from their mid-floor hole by that ram above, and also some of those reinforced walls being opened up. Fantasy was thinking of attempting maybe a flank in towards that lobby, but has since been battled back by that player over towards Connector. But one thing that NIP are doing well here is just wasting that time and not giving Loud any picks at the moment. Now, for Loud, they have brought in that Blitz, of course, to assist with this roam clear out. Well, if NIP are just going to fall back into sight, then, again, they've wasted a decent amount of time and not really done much, but there's still roamers upstairs. I mean, this is where Loud need to be a little bit quicker here, because we're into the minute 10 mark and still no kills on the board, and they haven't even attempted at probing the actual bomb site as of yet. Fluke time. Biggest issue for Loud at the moment.
That's it, right? As I said, they had the hold. They were trying to probe a loose angle, and Fantasy finds Paceto That is the blitz gone for Wizard.
Double dip.
Maybe overstays their welcome, drifts sideways on the door, and, well, 2 for it. They've still got work to do underneath. But from this point onwards, they've got the smoke canisters, Legion, they've got everything to slow down. Something really slow.
Just, I don't think they have the time. Just the utility still yet to be popped. You've got smokes. The Goyo's still up. I don't know how Loud are going to make it through this. I really don't.
Well, if they're going to do it, they've got to do it sooner rather than later. You can see that they're still trying to step it on this vertical fight as well. There's no one really giving up, and Hates wins it against Live via the vertical. There's fire on the default plant spot, so that 10 seconds finally throws itself out, and they've retaken their vertical. And then there's Perez getting cons as well, covering on the swing. Pino all that's left, and he's just going to go for the dash, and he's they're a step too late. Cannot get the second, but that was a half second, if that difference, Demo.
Oh, very, very close. I mean, a bright idea, just you have to go for it, don't you? If the guy kills you on the vertical, he kills you, but on the off chance he misses, you could be in for a big jackpot. Yeah, the issue was the smoke wasn't in a position to use this last smoke grenade. He still had one left in the pocket. That would have done it for them. If that smoke grenade landed on that default plant position, the Loud would have been out of time. So I just think a misposition there from the smoke. But still, for Loud, had everything covered. I think that the pressure from the hatch, holding the player as he tried to swing in towards Exo, that was good. Again, maybe the guy on the other vertical could maybe be questioned the fact that that guy's ran straight across, but still, the fuser goes down. That's the main thing that matters for Loud.
Okay, Loud. They are able to push that one over the edge as close as it could possibly be, but that isn't what people will remember. They'll look at the top of the scoreboard and go, it's 2-3. Really couldn't have been a couple of rounds ago. So there's still work to be done, but they've guaranteed themselves 2 attacks. I think for them, that's the bar, right, Demo?
5 seconds remaining.
Well, in terms of how they did it yesterday, they also were able to take 2 attacks. So it's, I suppose, consistency, but I think for Loud they probably would want more. Yeah, it started off with Lost taking a 4-2 half on their attacks, and then Loud they took 2 defenses but just couldn't get the rest, or 2 attacks, sorry, and just couldn't get the rest. So, yeah.
So 2-3, and they're going to see if they can try and start with the pressure above. As it was done before, they seem almost immediately trying to match it, but the breach isn't being slowed. Instead, pull back and pull even further back. That flash just to swap anyone swinging out potentially, but nobody's there to immediately get the follow-up. Obviously, they don't want to go back down to tank and assembly. Instead, onto storage and control, onto a site that did come down to a 1 versus 1, and as Hates gets the opener, it's immediately traded out. The Blackbeard hopping in as a Guban in his foot. Doesn't want to get swung on before it happens, but nobody's trying to get in there immediately. They're not a million miles away, but that was a good steal of that top floor vertical there.
Yeah, and Blackbeard's from that rafters really, really strong. He will now come up against a Wizard who was just in behind the monitors, but now location will be known with that drone at his feet. As a Blackbeard, needs to be careful. Don't want to engage that operator because we know how strong that he really is, and again, that scar hits pretty darn strong. Instead moves back to his other monitors, and he will be pinged out in the nade as well to force him out, but it's actually be a missed nade. Doesn't have to move at all from Wizard, and again, that's still a white nade, so he's still fine. So 2 nades being wasted and doesn't net anything. So Blackbeard really struggling to get himself in here and eliminate Wizard.
Look at this, all 4 of the remaining players here to try and get the vertical control, and it works well. 2 kills taken out. It was the right decision, because now they have a minute to try and operate on towards the site itself, and NIP shooting up through bars. Perez does get caught out by Hates on the flank, but this will give the awareness of one's upstairs, one's down, and they immediately shut down Hates. Now Cons all alone. They drop their way down. They can just try and go plant on towards the default side. The Blackbeard survives. Lucky 2, but unlucky for NIP, and that's an even half, Demo.
Yeah, improvements better than yesterday. That's one thing you can definitely say about Loud. An even split is good. I think they've been able to recover those past 2 rounds really, really well. like, not having any issues with the third bomb site. That's one thing that has to be said for Loud. They won that twice, and obviously winning the basement was really the top floor was where they struggled with their time management more than anything. For NIP, just taking their foot off the gas, just a tad there, it felt like. Struggling, of course, against the Blackbeard. So certainly shields were a bit of a win con there for Loud in that round, and having that Blackbeard as that main spearhead into the site. So now we see the side switch. In terms of the bans that Loud went for, they went for a triple shield ban up against Lost yesterday. And we only just see the one shield, so it is going to be a Monty, and a Deimos makes an appearance in the ban list.
I think it always makes sense, Deimos, against the right team, against the right hands. In some people's opinion, the most powerful operator, right? It's a fear driver. You've got, in some sites, 2 floors of soft, but that revolver just breezes through like cheese. It's just a comfort removal here. Now, Loud get themselves that even level. They did look better and better and better as well. Obviously, they doubled down success on that tertiary site, but they also took it so much cleaner, so much calmer. I sort of said it before the action came together, was instead of them being individually poking and prodding at different angles, there was all 4 of them above, making sure they got the job done, making sure they were playing against NIP's game of refusing to sort of stand down, and it netted them success, and then they started going towards the site. So that energy, that momentum, squarely and firmly in Loud's favor right now.
Oh, Shield. Oh, having a bit of issues there. Fantasy almost gets taken out. But can't say same for Wizardo. He will be taken out, and that's the Grim gone. A good operator to get off the board early for Loud, of course. NIP still yet to get the walls open. Haven't made an attempt at it as of yet. And don't forget, they maybe are worried about potential bandit trick, because an operator was not banned. So I think they're just waiting until they get the drone work done. And yep, no bandit there. They can go for it. No issues whatsoever for them. And oh, almost a nice little kill from Daffo. Ooh. And oh, Perez with the aggression will swing onto that opening and pick off that player on the upside down rappel. NIP, a tragic opening for this round.
I mean, they just kind of said, oh no, you're not allowed into the building, right? They've been able to get the kills outside. I said before they had the momentum, and here they're just sort of reaffirming it, putting a couple of underlines on and putting it in bold. Of saying, look, the longer we can keep them uncomfortable, the more we can sort of make them believe that. I said it before, NIP often a great setup and take team, and here Loud agree, so they're just not giving them the option to set up. There's 3 versus 5, but sorry, I lied. It's a 2 versus 5, and it is the ace into the Flores against the world now. No Raura, no Grim, nothing for that push, nothing for the Blackbeard as well. I mean, at this point, it's just picking up the hope they don't get flawless. Well, there's one.
Not 2, though, as Daffo makes quick work of the ace. And yeah, good, strong start for Loud, who now end up leading. It's something we really haven't seen much from Loud over the past 2 playdays, as them being in a commanding position, but certainly this is an occasion where they are, and NIP now on the back foot of things, as it was a pretty poor opening round for themselves, and news is they don't have to go back upstairs and attack that again. Basement will be the site selection for Loud, and again for Loud, just looking at their lineup, I do expect to see a bit of roam action from them, considering they have an Ela and also a Legion. 2 operators that, again, I think are pretty good as roaming operators, just kind of off the cuff, where you place the traps to really hinder your attackers pushing it into you, and you can take advantage of that. So, yeah, I think a roam game's certainly going to be on the cards for Loud.
4-3. And in IP, they, as you said, you know, Loud have been able to seize themselves that sort of first step ahead. It's a rare thing to see for the roster. I know that we said at the start of this, it can't just be a single massive performance, and Perez isn't, you know, hugely ahead. But both Perez and SDK generically are for the team, right? SDK 9-3. And now, on the Ella, on those rolls alongside the Legion, where the two of them can just be very expressive around the map. They can try and find awkward places to pick up fights and see where they can sort of leave dead bodies behind. At the same time, the team, you know, they have what can operate them on these swings. You're fully looking at a setup that is saying, yeah, we're winning the gunfights. Let's let them swing into us. We have Fenrir. We can restructure the Ella alongside Goya to buy themselves some time. Really, they're baying for NIP to step in as the pressure starts to come. Cross from the kitchen side. They got there in the end, but how much will they sort of give them here as NIP hates is eyeing up the top floor from the other side? Will they go for a pinch on a player? Fantasy does find live, and that does maybe cut off some of the rotation hope of anyone else up here.
Loud. We're gonna have to be forced back almost to sight. But if they do want to try their hand at a flank, and that's exactly what SDK is going to go for. Will be straight out though by the Blackbeard, but Perez able to eliminate Hates though. You still have Daffo inside a lounge. He's just tucked himself in using those Kiba barriers, and he will also be assisted by Perez, who's still kicking around in towards Cargo. Daffo has since then left the lounge, and this is looking a little bit messy from NIP. It doesn't look as though they have really any idea about where these defenders are at the moment.
Secured a way through.
I think that's it, right? Although they've been able to get rid of the first two, they've still got to try and get the kit to land. There's still one not too far away. And if they don't overextend on towards where Dafo's position is, who's concerned about the hold above him, well, they could be just terrifying. Now, this is vital space Dafo is in. So surely at some point it will get checked, it will get pressured. Before they just go and have a plant, they have plenty of time to still get it done. Because otherwise they are only watching in towards the route in towards the plant. And here's that moment. Pino creeps their way around, slowly expecting a firefight, but how close are they expecting it? There's pings. There's Dafo, though. Pino wins out, and now that 50 seconds became 30, but the rotate time to get to that vertical position demo is huge.
Blackbeard trying to truck his way on in, using that shield. Has to play gun up, of course, because he's desperate for a kill. Because his team is at a disadvantage at the moment. Bob just gets shredded as he tries to make his way into the bomb site. Loud holding firm the players in sight on their jobs well. But really it was the roam game. Loud having a lot of success on that roam, and NIP just struggling. I think probably information is what let them down there. They just had no idea where those roamers were.
I think it's, yeah, it's entirely that, right? The NIP were a bit lost as to where routes were. They were checking things a bit late as well. As I said, you know that that position is going to get checked out, and they had the pings on the player. They seem to have unawareness, and then it just turned into a 1 versus 1 based on the back of those sort of yellow pings. They lost it out. They then had to rotate someone else round to that position to put the pressure on. There was pings on the players inside the site, and you're just sort of wondering, okay, well, is it that they don't have the information? Is it that they have the information, they're just not operating on it at the right order at the right time, and that's where things are being lost? It's tough to tell without sort of being in that situation. But either way, for all the talk of how the board could be very separate at the end of the day, now it could be a lot closer. If Loud are able to take these points, they will instead jump up, I think, to around 5th place, potentially. I don't think they would catch NIP, but suddenly everybody is within sort of touching distance of each other.
Yeah. Certainly can happen for Loud, and I think they're in good form at the moment. Playing well. Better game plan than what it was yesterday. But NIP, when in doubt, just bring in 2 shields. They've got the Blackbeard and the Blitz this time around.
Is that a...
Maybe lacking?
I was going to say, together, does that make a panic, Monty?
No. What happens is you bring all 4 shields and then you make the Megazord. That's a secret tech that people don't know about.
The forbidden one.
We need a 5th shield operator in an attack. Feels a lot of people will hate me for saying that, but don't forget I am a shield main, so I'm a little bit biased in that regard.
Shield.
Honestly, that back in the day. Remember Young from Evil Geniuses? Serious tech that guy used to have in that.
the classic 5 shield shuffle.
Oh, it's great.
Now, a C4 might be trying to sliver its way out, but they were ready to shoot it. Well
missed the
prepared.
C4? He did. He picked it back up. He missed it.
Okay, well.
Go again. The wizard is he's a little bit scared, isn't he?
I like how it's
rightly so.
Yeah, Wizard is the one who's in danger here, right? The other two are just playing a game of like. There's a lot of trust and
They're
faith,
fishing.
and Wizards, and they're like, "You'll be fine." And Wizard's like, "Will I?" Looks like they might want to go for something a bit quick underneath. Wizard has gone down. Did he just fall off, or was he shot through the soft?
I don't know. Don't know what
Is that
happened there.
Oh, unless he fell off and down the ladder. Because a fall
maybe.
just as a hop isn't enough. So I think he hopped to the top and then landed down the ladder by accident. It's just quite funny.
Okay. Yeah. Look at this. Double shield just sweeping that top floor. No problems at all. So they've secured that side of the map. So they know that they have access where they can kind of open up in towards storage now if they want to. Again, that window is great for shields just jumping in and attempting that plan. And it's the Blitz who has the diffuser, but look at where the shields are going. They're going to contest the players over towards cargo, it looks like.
Well, Hates does find the first on Basetto, and that is that Legion gone. But with 30 seconds left, they're still just chasing ghosts. They're pulling further and further back. Now, they're soft above and below the site, so it's not entirely confident to have it. And there's the below, proving that there's problems. And there goes the Blackbeard. Perez does get caught out by Hates, the second for the round, and they need some support here on the Blitz, because if the Blitz goes down, well, then they're shieldless. The Blitz is going to go for the plant in the meantime, but C4 from live underneath, and that's what I talked about. You cannot just trust at this moment. They're going for another plant here. That C4, is that going to be too late? You've got to do something with it. It's a post-plant situation.
Down.
The player does go down. It's traded out for 2 versus 1. Wizard, the man who accidentally jumped in a puddle and found it was too deep, is now in the deepest water possible. A clutch situation. Has the timer on his side. Doesn't want to back out at this moment in time, expecting a swing either side. So, seeing that door is castled, he gets himself a little bit further away, a bit more space on towards it. Now, one of them will watch and one of them will diffuse. How wide of an angle can you get? That is too wide.
Good.
And Loud push themselves onto map point.
Really good 1v2, I thought, from Loud, the way that they almost, they took a breath, didn't they? For about 10 seconds, they're like, right, what do we want to do? Look where he's planted. We know where he is. That door's castled. That was the key thing, was that door being blocked off. Was it limited the Maverick to only swing from the window. Yeah, at that stage, it would be a lot more trickier, of course, for Loud, because it's which way is he going to go? It's almost a 50-50 at that stage. Does he go to the door? Does he go for the window? With that being castled, it gives you that straight gunfight. One guy defuse, one guy cover. Simple stuff. So really impressed with the way Loud played that 1v2. NIP was going cargo with the correct decision there. I think it's really risky because obviously if you know that teams are looking to play from below as well, there's only a few limited places that you can actually plan in. I'm actually surprised that the C4 even reached the Blitz, but maybe that's because the Blitz was taking earlier engagements, and don't forget that Blitz was maybe on 20 HP. So the C4 didn't have to be, perfectly landed on him to get the kill. Just a little bit of a scrape, and that would have been enough to take him out, which I think is what happened there.
Well, the tag timeout will click its way through. Perez and STK. Just a huge, huge game for them. Basetto found their first kill over this round of the one before. I can't quite remember, but they're off that board. And at this point, NIP, they have to try and push this over. Loud, they will free up their top site, their first pick. Once again, they have 3 opportunities potentially on this side if they want them. Eventually, they'll have every single site as an option. Here, the Blitz is on the board for now. Will they try and manipulate something on the back of it? It's otherwise a fairly standard approach.
NIP just cannot buy an attack at the moment. Couldn't even win the third bomb site, which I suppose that's kind of the difference though, isn't it? Loud were a team that were exceptional at attacking that third bomb site. They won it twice. Whereas NIP can't even, win it once. I think that's really what it comes down to, isn't it? At the moment, is is on those attacks. You know, Loud were able to do enough. We're able to get those 3 rounds. It even feels as though even maybe the 2 rounds would have been enough for Loud, because NIP just, it's not happening for them here today. And I suppose it kind of harks back to the points that the guys made in the desk. NIP as an attacking side are not there. As a defensive side, yes they are, but it's a team that just struggles on that attack. And guess what, Fluke? In a game of Siege, you need to be able to do both.
At this point, every single engagement is going to be on a knife edge here for NIP. And where we've seen other big teams' paces fall, it's not that they've been entirely out in the wash in the reads. They're getting themselves planted, they're getting themselves close. They could have been obviously staving off map point here on the back of that clutch. There was other rounds that came down to narrow margins. Instead, here, getting connector open, getting IT open very quickly. They've got both of those jobs done.
Perez feeling confident, looking to swing onto that electrical window. Will destroy the air jab. Don't forget, there's also a frost mat on that window as well, so whoever jumps in will have to immediately look down and take that out. Mostly for the shields. Don't know if you're aware of this, Fluke. You know, previously, as a blitz, you could jump in a window, and you could easily destroy a frost mat. Now, because you get kind of un-ADS'd as you jump in a window now, you can't do that. So, yeah, frost mat's big issue for the blitz. Wizard has just strolled on into sight somehow, but his team, though, is falling around him.
That's it. It's a down player. It's technically a 3 versus 2 right now, but look at the position of the 2 players. Pino does get one more. A 2 versus 2. They can try and get a pinch on this fight. They pull themselves back. They're inside the site and pressuring alongside.
Wizard's
it's just
down.
Pino now. Wizard's gone down and knocked out, and they are pulling further back. Pino tries to keep the pressure up. He knew where they were! But Loud finally, in the everlasting words of Ian Chambers, made some noise. And they take themselves a win.